Hello grade 12s, we're going to do revision now for your test. We are going to do this program here. This is a program that's going to keep a record of members of clubs and societies. It has a string grid on and a list box. Now the list box we don't use very often, so now it's a bit of revision in general. There's an items property of the list box, and in the items property you can have anything that you want, and there are strings numbered from 0 all the way to the last item in the list box. So the first item is number 0. Now this one has got lines in it, 25 it says there, and each line has commas separating items. It's a bit like a text file. You cannot see it though unless you go to the items property, so the list box is not visible on the form as such, and you go to the items property and then you go and look inside what you have. In this one there is a code for a club or society, and then an ID number, and then a learner's name. So it's a code, an ID number, and a name for each one, separated by commas. In the onActivate event of the form, it's provided code here where the list box is going to be read and displayed in the string grid, which I showed you. This, not that one. This is a string grid over here called STG display. I keep pressing the wrong button. Okay, there we go. So STG display, in the first column 1, row 0, we put the heading group. In column 2, row 0, we put the heading ID, and in column 3, row 0, we put the heading member. See, it's STG.cells, and then in square brackets which cell you're going to work with, and we're going to put the item in. Strings go into string grids, remember. And here we have just a setting for the column width so that it displays neatly. So this is provided code, and then we have a for loop going through each item of the list box and putting it in an array called ARR lines. Now ARR lines is a global array, so each line of that list box is going to be put in each index of ARR lines. And while we're here, let's have a look at AR names, AR group, and AR ID, all of the type T lines, and you can consider them to be 4 parallel arrays with the counter iCount ARR, which will hold the number of boxes that have been filled at the end of the code. But what is this T lines over here? It's a type that is user-defined type. In other words, you declare type. So here T lines is declared as an array 1 to 1000 of T string. And what is T string? T string is another type, a user-defined type that you declare. T string equals string and 100 characters maximum for each string. So there will be, in each box of this T lines array type, there will be strings with maximum 100 characters. Maybe a bit too many characters, but when you consider the list box, that's fine. The list box items are quite long, and this is code just to fill the array and to display the index number of the string grid of the list box, the counting items 1 to 25. We saw there were 25. Then we have iCount ARR, which is how many items were put into ARR lines, and the string grid is the row count will be the number of items plus 1. Why is that? The list box, because we need an extra row for the headings. You see the headings there, and it's just we need an extra column for the headings going down vertically. Right, now we're going to go through each box or index of ARR lines, where we're going to copy from each box of ARR lines into ARR group, ARR ID and ARR names. Copying for the group, we're going to copy the first 4 characters into ARR group of ARR lines, and then for the ARR ID we're going to copy all the digits of the ID. It's 13 of them, starting at character number 6. And then for ARR names we're going to start at character number 7 and copy the rest of that string into ARR names. Then we're going to go to the string grid and display for each loop counter from 1 to iCount ARR. We're going to display the group and the ID and the names. Now when we run the program, as I said, this is given code, but it's always good to understand it. When you run the program, then as you can see, this has been filled. Now you might see that actually we've got some names cut off there, so we do have a bit of a problem. What we're going to do here is have a look at ARR names, and we know that the first 4 characters, and then there was a comma, so that's 5, and then let's see, so if I go and make let's go and get an Excel spreadsheet open quickly so we can see exactly what we're working with here. First 4 characters will be the code, then a comma, and then you have 13 characters for the ID and then a comma, so that'll be 19. And we're going to test to see if this copying the names is actually correct, because the name is at the very end of that long line in ARR lines. Remember, we read from the list box into the array called ARR lines, so we have to go and see if that calculation is correct. So I'm going to write I'm just going to put in a code here of 4 characters, then a comma, and then (13 digits, and then a comma, and then a name. Okay, for want of a better name. This is quite a long string. So imagine this is one of the items in the list box. And I will make it larger so that you can see it better, maybe. If any luck, maybe you can see it better that way. Right, now what we have to do is number the items, the characters. So the first one we were copying from character 1, and we're copying 4 characters, so that's done, that's fine. So I will just maybe just say, okay, we've done that one. Then the next one, we're copying the ID from starting number 6, 13 characters. So let us see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oops, I'm just going to highlight this and then count it afterwards. What's 18 minus 6 is 13, so that is correct. Then from number 20 we're starting to copy from character number 20, which looks right, and the length of arrow lines is saying -1, -20. Well, that will be the number of characters, but is that correct? You're starting from 20, and if you want to get this, then do we say the length, which is 27? 27 minus 1 is 26. Length of that string minus 1 and then minus 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So no, that is not correct. Can't say minus 20. You have to look for the position of the comma. So the best way to make sure that you have the actual, using the length and then trying to subtract, well, you're going to have a problem, because they've used the number of characters being the length of the whole array minus 20. Well, the length of the whole array, which is 27, that's the length of the whole array. Length, I mean, not the whole array, sorry, not the whole array, the length of the string. So they're starting at 20, and the number of characters they're saying here in this code is it's the length of that string. Arrow lines, loop is the like the for loop counter. Remember, we're going through the array and each box. Okay, so the length minus 1, 27, which comes to 26. And if you take 26 minus 20, you only have 6 characters. So only 6 characters are being copied. So that is short, isn't it? If we say 27 minus 20, we will get 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the calculation is wrong. So you'll have to say 27. So it's 27 minus 20. Oops, sorry. Minus 20. What if we add 1 to it? Which shouldn't we get the right answer then? Because how long is John Doe? It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that is the right calculation. 27 minus 27 plus 1 is 8. So this calculation is wrong here. The length of that minus 20 plus 1. So now let's go and see if this is going to work better, and we'll be able to see the names of the people in that list box. There we go. So now we can see them much. Now it's covering, it's definitely going to include all the names properly spelled. Right, so that was that there. We fixed that. So that was an interesting little bit of exercise. So now you understand what's going on activate event. This is provided code, like I said, but let's get into what we need to do. We have to go through every single box to calculate the youngest person in the group, and then display all the people that are born in that same year. So we've got to find out what is the youngest age, and for that year of birth we have to decide, we have to add, we've got to find everyone else that is born that same year. So we're going to go through an array called ARID. Remember, ARID will have all the ID numbers. See over there, we've copied the ID numbers into ARID, and ARID will have all those ID numbers starting with a year. And remember, it's the 2 digits for the year, so 02 or 08 and so on. And we're going to find out which one is the youngest. So the one with the we can imagine that it's all the 22nd century, 21st century, yeah, 21st century, meaning we'll have 2002 births, 2003, and so on in this particular example. In the 20th century, then you'll worry about the 1959 or 1989 and so on. But we just want the lowest. What do we want? The lowest? No, not the lowest number. We want the highest number of all those birth years to find the youngest person. If you want the oldest person, you'll look for the lowest number, but we want the highest year. So the year 2010 is higher than the year 2002. So if you're born in 2010, you are going to be younger than somebody born in 2002. And for this, we need to obviously get the first 2 digits of the ID. So we're going to go through the array called ARID, and we'll use a for loop to do that. So we need a for loop counter. Then we are going to well, if you have an array of numbers and you want to find the lowest or the highest of any array, you always let your lowest, you can have a lowest value. And remember, we are going to compare integers with integers. So I'm going to make our lowest. I don't know why my computer's doing this. Some of the letters become capitals and some don't. Right. But before I carry on, let's make our text larger so that you can see better. Tools and options. And display, and I will make it 18, so that might be better. Okay, that's not giving a problem. So our lowest, I'm going to make it equal to the first box of, I don't know why my keyboard's doing this. Low, oops, yeah, I think I know why. Our lowest will be equal to, now remember the ARID global array is filled with ARIDs, and it's all strings because T lines is an array of strings, so all of those arrays are strings, and it's going to be box number 1, but we have to copy from it the first 2 characters. Why? Because the first 2 characters of the ID number is the year of birth, but don't forget both ARID and copy return strings, and on the left hand side we have an integer, so we have to convert string to int, and if there's any leading zeros they will be removed. So now we have our R lowest equal to that. Now we're going to use a for loop to go through the rest of the array. So we make the lowest or the highest. If you are calculating the highest, you always make it equal to the first box, and then we're going to go to the rest of the array. Our count, ARR, is our global array counter, remember, for those parallel arrays. Then in begin and end, we're going to ask the question. Well, first of all, we're going to get our current year, get the year of birth, YOB, I'm going to call it YOB, from each box. YOB, use the same concept, string to int, copy from ARID, box number K this time, the first 2 characters, and then we're going to ask the question if YOB, if it's greater than our lowest, lowest age. Okay, if it's greater, then we know that the year of birth that person was born earlier, so they, I mean later on, so they're going to be a lower age. Then we're going to set, we've got to set our lowest now going to be equal to I year OB. I mean, yeah, our lowest is going to be that particular one. After this loop is finished, we will then have what our lowest is. In other words, the youngest person in the group, I mean in that whole list of items from AR lines originally, and then gone ID numbers gone into AR ID. Remember, all of these are parallel arrays. Now we've got to go through the whole loop again to go and find out who else has got that year of birth, that our lowest. For k equals 1, 2, r count ARR, we're now going to go through the whole array and say, well, let's go and get our year of birth again. I can use the same variables, it's fine. Let's go and get the year of birth. See, it's a little bit of repetition code here. So we get our year of birth, and then we have to find out if RYOB equals our lowest this time. Then we know that that person is also born in the same year as the youngest person, and we want to go and display their code and their ID. So where are we going to display it? Inside this rich mem display dot lines dot add. We want to display the code. Remember, we've got codes, sorry, not code, group, the group and the ID, so we can double check even. So we're going to display ARR group and group box number K, join that to a #9, join that to AR ID box number K. As we know, both AR group, AR ID and AR names and AR lines are all of the same type, which is an array of strings, and we have R count AR as the counter for all of those parallel arrays. So that's displaying it in the memo, and that's it. So let's go and run this and see if it works. So we've got all our names over here and the ages, and we click on youngest, and you see the youngest is born in 2013. 13 was the highest number of all of those numbers, and if you had to scroll through, you'd see that that is 3 of them are in 2013, so that code worked perfectly fine. Now we're going to go on to the next one. Don't forget to save your work. File save all. Now we want to display a list of all the people born in all the different months of the year using the month number, not the actual day month. We're going to just go and get the month number, month 1, month 2, from 1 to 12. And we're going to count all the people that are born in a specific month. And the best way to handle this is to make an array of integers, call it ARR month, colon array. It's a local array, you're only going to use it here for the 12 months, and we will put an array of counters here for the number of people for each month. So for month 1 that will be January, month 12 that will be December. And then before we use this array, we actually need to use the for loop and set those counters to 0. all integers and arrays of integers, if they are locally declared like they are here, these are here, they will not be 0. We need to set them to 0 before we start counting or totaling. Okay, because 1, 2, 12, because there's 12 months, you'll say AR months, box number K, colon equals 0. We've now put zeros in each of those array boxes. It would be a good idea to clear the memo just so that we can see our output better. Then we have to go through each box of the ID array, because where would the month number be? It will be in the ID array. The character number 8 and 9. So we're going to go and copy character number 8 and 9. No, sorry. Don't forget this array. This array of IDs is only going to have these 13 digits in it. And there are 13. We'll double check that. So that is your array of IDs. Yes, 13, and it will be character number 3 and 4. So remember, those two are the year of birth, that is the month of birth, and that is the day of birth. We only want the month of birth, so we are going to go and get those two characters, and I'm going to say I month, make it an integer variable, and we are going to go through every single box of the array for K equals, I can use my for loop K counter again, 1, 2. Now how many boxes are there in AR ID? Well, it's I count ARR boxes, aren't there? 1, 2, I count ARR. Do, begin and end. So now we're going to get our month of birth. We say that is equal to, we're going to copy from our ID, box number K, starting at number 3, and we're going to copy 2 characters. But you must remember, copy is a string, so we're making an integer equal to a string, which is not allowed, so we have to say string to int on the right hand side and put that in brackets. So we've got I month. Now I month is going to be either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It will be. There's no two ways. It can't be anything else. So all we have to do now is increment our array of months, box number I month. That's all we have to do. We're adding 1 to this array here. So if the month is 1, we'll add a 1 to our month, box number I month. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have called it I month because that's a little bit confusing, isn't it? But I think you get the idea. Well, I certainly hope you do. And then all that's left now to do is to display it, all the months in the memo. And we're displaying AR month array. We only used AR ID to go and get the months. Now we're going to display AR month array. So we'll use a for loop going from 1 to 12 again. For K equals 1 to 12. You know, we've got all our counters added up into AR months over there in that code. And now all we have to do is display mDisplay dot lines dot add, type in the word month, and go and put in int to string K, and join that to a #9, and join that to int to string AR month, box number K. And that's it. Simple. Because AR month, box number K, is an integer. It's a local variable that we declared here in our button on click event, array of integers, and k is going to go from 1 to 12. Remember, we set it to 0 first, and then we incremented each box there in this code using ARID, and then we go through that AR month array. We know there are going to be 12 boxes, there's no two ways about that, because they're only going to be 1 to 2 up to 12 months of the year, and then we're displaying it in our memo like this. And don't forget to use int to string. And now we run it, and we click on birth months, and then we'll see month number 1, there's no people born in January, because there was only 25 rows in that list box, and there you have all the different number of people that were born in a specific month. Maybe we should have made a bit of a maybe 2 hash lines or something, just to make it better look better on the display. You see better over there. Okay, right, so that was easy. Don't forget to file and save all. The next thing we will do is group leaders. We've got to calculate, well, not calculate, we've got to find out who the group leaders are. Now, in the list box, let's go and look at our data in the list box. Click on list box and go to the items property again, and we'll see we have a lot of codes here. There's TOE2, TSO2, TUC9, VAN2, VNA3, VNA. Ooh, there's a duplicate code. VNA3, VAN3. Now, the group leaders are going, if they're only going to be a group leader if there's more, if there's two people in the same club. 1, 2. If there's only one person, so that code is like the club, okay, and the leader will be, if we find a duplicate, another one of the same code, then we're going to make the first person in the list here is going to be the group leader. So in this case, Van 3, we have Stan Livingston, and we found another Van 3, then we know that the first one, Van 3, Stan Livingston, is going to be the leader. Let's go and see if we can find another duplicate code. Oh, there's Wes 4. So Wes 4 is there, and then we have Tetele, and Tetele is the first one, and then the second, there's another one, and therefore we're going to make Tetele the leader, because that person is first, comes in the list before Devon Aronson here. And that is actually the only two group leaders that I can see here in this very short list. So that's how we're going to calculate. So we have to go through each box of our codes. Now where's our code? Not code, sorry, groups. Group code. You can call it group code. So we're going to go through AR group this time, and we're going to see if there is a duplicate, another one of the same group. And when we find another one, then we're going to set that first one to be the leader, the first person in that of that code to be the leader. Now we'll need a for loop counter to go through the array for k equals 1, 2 to our count ARR, but we're going to go to the second one. Now, to give you an idea of how this is going to work, I'm going to show you now on the spreadsheet. So here we have VH3, and then maybe we'll have another box. Will wait, we can't do that. Hey, that's not going to work. Sorry, delete. I'm just going to make up some codes here now. I'll make it large enough so you can see, of course. Try anyway. Right, so now let's go and make some codes up. Let's say this is Gr12 and then this is HG4, and then we have another one, and we're going to call it something else, JHI3, and then we have another Gr3S, and then we'll have JHI3, and then we'll have another one, KRU6, and so on. Let's say we have something similar to that, and you can see there are some duplicates there. And these are now array contents. Okay, this is ARR group. Let's imagine that it is. Now we are going to go, we're going to take the first one and look through the rest. So now our first for loop, and I'll use another for loop, call it M. Okay, I'm going to make, now that both for loops are going to go through each of these arrays, but in a different manner. First of all, we're going to start with k equals 1. And we're going to take k equals 1 and go through the rest of the array, which is the ones that I'm highlighting there. So we take the first one, and then we're going to go look at that one, then that one, and then we find one. As soon as we find one, we're going to store that as the leader code is going to be Gr3S, but what is the corresponding name of the leader? And that's where you have to go to ARR names. We're going to try and go through ARR names now. I'm going to make my ARR names array here, ARR names, and it will also be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember, it's a parallel array, and over here we'll put some names in, Jane and John and Sue and Will and Tom and Luke, for want of names. Anyway, so we go through here. When we find a match, so we found Gr3S, then we're going to say our leader for Gr3S will be equal to this one here. Not so, because it's the corresponding name in the ARR names box array. Sorry, it's the corresponding box in ARR names array, because they are parallel. Just note that these two arrays here are the same array, ARR group. K is going to go from 1 to the second last item, and M is going to go from K plus 1 to the very last item. So we've done K equals 1. Now we're going to go to K equals 2. We're now on K equals 2. We've done K equals 1. Let's go and push that back to no full. Now we're going to do K equals 2. And got a bit of a problem here, because we can't go from 3 to 6 now, can we? We can't say K plus 1. We actually need to go from that one all the way to there. But that's fine. We can do that. We can do that. K plus 1 is now going to go to 3, and it's going to skip 2, because K plus 1 starts at 3. So 2 we've basically done. Remember, it's the same array. So number 2 is HGR4. Are there any HGR4s there? No. So then K will then go to be 3. And we finished this one over here for the M loop. So K is now 3. Then M is going to go to from 4 to 6. And then it does find 1. So JH13 is going to have corresponding number 5 in arrow names. Is now Tom is going to be the leader there. Right, so we've done 3 for K, and we've finished this one for M. We're now on box number 4 for K, and L is going to go from 5 to 6. So 4 is Gr3S. Nope. Then we're going to go from here, number 5. So when we finish number 4, K will be 4, and M will be 4 plus 1, which is 5. We've done that. Now K is 5, and M is going to go and look at the last one, K plus 1, which will be 6 to 6, and they're not equal. So in this particular scenario, we only had 2 leaders that we identified from the duplicates that were in this array called AR group. In other words, there will only be a maximum of 2 boxes that will be the same. So we're going to use this in our nested for loops. So the for loop for K will go from 1 to the R count array minus 1, and the second for loop M will go from K plus 1 to the last box of the array, R count ARR. A bit like when we were sorting, remember? It's the same nested for loop structure when we sorted an array. But now this time we're just searching. We're going to say if ARR, where are we? We're talking about the group, AR group. Remember AR group? We're talking about AR group. We're going through the array AR group to see if there's any duplicates. So if AR group, where am I? Okay, wait. Sorry, this one. If AR group box number K equals AR group box number M, then begin and end, I'm going to make but mustn't forget that the first box is K. So if that's going to occur before box number M, remember? So we actually got it wrong here. The first box has to be not for you but Jane, because the K, we know that GOS3 was duplicated here, but we have to use the first one to be the leader, so it's actually Jane, not Luke. And then for JH13 it is Sue, not Tom, so we can't use Tom. Tom was number 5. We've got to take the first one that occurs, and if you find a duplicate, that one is going to be the leader. So if K equals, then we're going to say sorry, I'm just getting a little bit beyond myself. Yeah, we're going to go and let's go and put these group leaders into an array, because that will help before we do go any further. AR leaders colon array, and 1, 2, and I'm going to make it 1,000, or maybe what's half 1,000? 500, not so, because we know that if there's duplicates, one of them, and I'm going to make it a string array, and R count leaders. I'm going to make a variable. We don't know how many there will be, how many duplicates there will be of the group code. There'll be different members, but there will be only one lead, and that's going to be the first one we find, the one that we're looking for in the second loop, is going to be the K counter. So our leader, I'm going to increment our count leaders so that I can start. Oops, you do realize if we're incrementing a counter, what must we do? Set it to 0 to start off with before we even go through using these loops. So we increment our counter, we've got to set it to 0 before anything else happens. So I've did it over there, and then I'm incrementing if I find a match, and I'm going to put into AR leaders, this array leaders, box number R count leaders. After I've incremented, I'm going to put that into that. I'm going to put ARR group box number K, join that to a #9, and join that to AR names box number K. That is very important. Remember, the K for loop counter is the important thing there, not the M, because the M gave us the second one that we found. So K is here, let's make it nice and red, and then here is M's value, which is 4, but we actually want we want K's name, Jane, has to be the leader. And then over here, when we look for JH13, we find a duplicate here, but can't use Tom as a leader because Sue occurred first in the array AR names, the corresponding array. See that JH13 in K, in the using for the for loop, for the K for loop, third occurred, that was 3, it occurred before number 5, so we take number 3 and Sue being the name. So that's what I'm putting into the array called AR leaders, and that's the best way to do it, is using an array just like we did in the previous activity. And you can see there's a whole lot of begins and ends there, but that's fine. After all of that is done, we know that AR leaders is going to hold the string, and all we need to do is go and put it in the memo. But we have to use a for loop, and I'm going to use my for loop counter K again because I can. But how many boxes are there? R count leaders of AR leaders. There's R count leaders there, and then I'm going to say mem display dot lines dot add ARR leaders box number K, and I can do that happily knowing that I've put the right information into the array right there. So that is a better way to do it. Yeah, you could go and display straight into the memo there, but it's nice to know that you can use arrays to save your information. So let's go and see if it actually works, because we can actually look at the data on the list box. When we run the code and we're displaying the data, we can see it. We can see who the leaders are, and I'm going to double check to see first, and they are in alphabetical order here. So Van 3, Stan Livingston, that's our first leader because he came ahead of Louise Leroy. Van 4, Amy Earhart, came before Lily, so it's Stan, Amy. Is there any more? There's where's 4, Lele came before Devon. So those 3, let's see if we've got our group leaders right. Stan, Amy, and Clele. As you can see, that has worked 100%. So that is not so difficult. So make sure you can do all of that.